Good morning. My name is Reverend Pamela Wat, and I am the in-person and virtual minister of First Unitarian Church of Wilmington. Thank you for joining us from wherever and whatever time or place you occupy. We continue to stream our classes and services and meetings while maintaining social distancing precautions. Our in-house Sunday morning worship team has been reduced to 3 households thanks to John, Eli, and Leo, who are skillfully handling our on-site AV needs, to Cyril, Everett, and Catherine Braik, Selin, who are our in-house musicians, and to my husband, Eric Goodlett, who is helping to manage logistics here in our space this morning. Here at First Unitarian Church, we are working hard to keep our staff and our membership safe. A limited number of office staff are working in the church throughout the week, while much work is also happening from our respective homes. We hope that all of you are staying safe as well. Every Friday, we send out an e-news publication that includes information on small groups, classes for children and youth, opportunities for support, and other news to help you stay connected during this time of social distance. Please go to our website and subscribe to be part of our virtual connections. Catherine Williamson, the Director of Religious Exploration, and I are looking for ways to connect with all of you, including adults, children, and youth. And toward that end, we will keep offering you questions or activities to share with us each week. And this week is our Chalice Challenge. That's right. Make a chalice at home using only materials you find around the house and in nature: cardboard, tape, glue, Lego, magnetiles, clay, dominoes, old shoes, whatever you have. Make a chalice that can hold a candle, a regular candle or an LED candle, and send a picture of your completed chalice to connection@firstuuwilm.org by Wednesday, April 1st at noon to be included in the April 5th worship service. And finally, I want to thank Doyle Dobbins and Beverly Baxter for sharing their daffodils for our service today and bringing a bit of spring into our sanctuary space. And now, I invite you to take a deep breath. Let it all out as we settle into this time together, knowing that our connections are ever present despite the distance between us.
Join our hearts. This is our moment, right here and right now. Right now, rose will fall, gentle and kind. This is our moment. This is our time.
There is too much beauty in this world to give up on it yet. And it is always too soon to surrender to cynicism. Bring your doubt, your skepticism, your downright confusion, even your bitterness. But in the midst of all these, in the center, wrap your tender fingers around that still bright thread of hope. Feel in your heart that still steady hunger for something more. The vision we glimpse every day in the rising sun across the foothills, the light that spreads across the face of the one we love, the look of knowing all there is to know, and still loving life, loving us just as it is, just as we are. For this hour, we come to celebrate, to praise, to give thanks, to refuse to give up this, to steady ourselves, keepers of hope, brave builders of this still possible world. Come, let us worship together. Blame, friend of our most ancient ancestors, we kindle you now to make you visible in this time. Yet in truth, you burn always in the unique worth of each person, in the imagination, in the turning of the heart to sorrow or joy, in the call to hope, and in the call to justice. Burn bright before us. Burn bright before us. Let us sing together, whether here or at home. Come sing a song with me, number 346.
Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when
to say together our unison affirmation. First Unitarian Church of Wilmington is a beloved community that nourishes minds and spirits, fights injustice, and transforms the world through loving action. Our story today comes from Nigeria. It's an old wisdom tale called How Wisdom Scattered. Before people had school teachers and classrooms, they had eyes and ears and learned from animals. Every creature, no matter how small or humble or slow of movement, had something to teach. Consider tortoise. Awkward, not especially friendly. And yet tortoise produced many young and lived to a great old age. Tortoise is clever. Isn't that true? They would say to each other. And they sang out praise on the talking drum, a praise that went something like this. Tortoise is truly a child of a wise God, one who digs in the earth to hide and finds a water fountain. After all, what could be more important than being careful and in the process finding a water well? Tortoise was called by other praises too and was famous for wisdom, so famous indeed that Tortoise feared that others would try to steal some of his secrets. Where to hide them then? After all, Tortoise was known for digging. Aha! Tortoise had an idea. And late one night, as the neighbors slept, Tortoise wrote down all of his tricks and secrets on little bits of paper, stuffed them into a gourd, bit down hard on the narrow neck of the gourd, and started walking. But he was not alone. Cat watched as Tortoise lumbered toward the forest. Tortoise tried to hurry without paying attention to Cat. He was trying so hard not to see Cat that he tripped over some tree roots and didn't notice that one of the papers had fluttered about to the ground. Here, Tortoise, here's something you dropped, said Cat respectfully as she caught up with Tortoise. You couldn't see the tree roots because you have a gourd in your mouth. Humph, yes, said Tortoise, stuffing the piece of paper back into the gourd. Tortoise hoped that Cat wouldn't read very well in the dark. Excuse me, aged one, but wouldn't your paper be safer if you used bark to stuff up your gourd? She asked most brightly. Humph, yes, said Tortoise, plugging the mouth of his gourd and walking on, the gourd still bumping against the ground. And Cat added, couldn't you see better if you tied the gourd on a vine and hung it around your neck? Certainly, said Tortoise, that's why I go into the forest. Tortoise was grumpy now, pulled a piece of vine from a nearby tree, twisted it about, testing its strength as he waited for Cat to leave. And as soon as Cat ran away, Tortoise started walking again. He kept walking until he found the tallest tree around. And he started clawing his way up the trunk, but he couldn't even get his back feet off the ground. His gourd clanked onto his chest and kept him from getting a good grip on the trunk of the tree. And over he reached, and over he fell. He managed to climb up a few feet before he fell. And he landed clunk onto the earth on his back. Early the next morning, Tortoise was still lying with his feet in the air, rocking back and forth in his shell, trying to turn himself over, when Antelope came looking for fresh grass for her children. Ah, good morning, Mr. Tortoise, said Antelope politely. You work hard this early in the morning. Since you are so kind, Mother Antelope, said Tortoise, I will tell you, I'm tired of living down inside the earth. I plan to live where the air is fresh, high in this tree. Well, I'm not as wise as you, Ancient One, but I have a thought that might help, said Antelope modestly. If you hang your gourd behind you rather than in front, you should have less trouble climbing the tree. Humph, yes, said Tortoise. So if you could just turn me over. And so she did, gently nudging him with her nose until he was back on his feet again. And Tortoise did as Antelope advised and soon clambered to the top of the tree. And he found the perfect branch for his gourd of secrets, out of sight from any animal down below. Oh, but as he reached around his neck for the gourd, he had a terrible thought. He was missing 3 secrets. The secret of stopping up the gourd, the secret of tying the vine around the gourd and hanging it to his neck, and the secret of hanging the gourd behind his neck as he climbed. He must add those 3 secrets to his collection. But Tortoise's round body was not as good for climbing trees as it was for digging and hiding in the earth. And trying to uncork the gourd while propped between shaky branches, Tortoise slipped and the gourd fell to the ground, breaking into 1,000 pieces. And that is how wisdom happened to scatter around the universe. And if we keep looking, you and I may find a bit of wisdom scattered here and about. I wonder what wisdom you will find today. And I wonder when you find that wisdom, those deep secrets of our world, I wonder if you will notice them. For our time of meditation today, I want to offer you an image. But first, I invite you to get comfortable in your seat, wherever you are. Take a deep breath. Let it all out. Feel the support of the chair or the bed or the floor holding you, supporting you. Feel the connections, whether you are with other people right now or by yourself. Feel the connections to us here in this room and those all around the world. Back before I was Unitarian Universalist, I spent some time in a Buddhist community in Berkeley, California. And every week we would gather in the building of this temple in the basement for meditation. And we would sit for long periods of time in quiet. And it was a dark room, no natural light coming in. We'd sit on the floor. And in that room were these enormous prayer wheels, these Buddhist prayer wheels. They're said to be made by rolling paper over and over again. And on this paper is printed the words of the Buddha. Prayers, really, for harmony, for peace, for love, compassion, kindness. And it's said that as the wheels turn, those intentions of the Buddha are spun out into the world. And these prayer wheels spin all the time. They would spin during those times when we'd sit in that basement for meditation. They would spin before we got there. They spun long after we left. They were always spinning. They're still spinning. And they would create this sort of steady hum that operated in the background, just sending out that kindness and that love all the time out into the world. They say that the same is true of Buddhist prayer flags. The words of the Buddha are printed on these prayer flags, and they're hung outside where the wind catches them and sends these intentions out to everyone who might need them. All of these intentions out into the world. And so I invite you to imagine that energy swirling all around you, all of that wisdom for kindness and love, for healing. There's nothing you need to do right now to bring that energy out into the world. Just notice it moving around you, through you, as we rest in a time of silent meditation. We imagine those who might need healing energy, loving energy this day. Those who might need some hope, some strength, some healing. And as we call to mind the names of those who are in need of our care and concern, I invite you now to say those names out loud. May all whose names were spoken and those unspoken return to their strength, their peace, the home of their soul. a few different websites offer a word of the day to help you learn more words that you might not otherwise encounter. I know I feel a tiny bit wiser with words like venacious in my vocabulary. A couple of weeks ago, on more than one word of the day website, the word that showed up was pandemic, a word most of us didn't have much use for until recently. Pandemic, an outbreak of a disease that occurs over a wide geographic area, and it affects an exceptionally high proportion of the population. As our country's national, state, and city leaders debate the severity and impact of COVID-19, the United States has made its way past China, past Italy, with the leading number of cases around the world. I've taken a break from listening to elected officials debating how or whether this pandemic is a long-term problem. What I've been doing instead is I've been watching the numbers. There is a coronavirus dashboard that constantly updates the numbers of overall confirmed cases, in addition to the deaths, recoveries, and severe cases. And it lists cases for the world, and it breaks it down by each country and even each of our United States. The site simply scrapes the data from the websites of organizations like the World Health Organization and collects it all in this one constantly updated place. This site was created by Avi Schiffman, who is a 17-year-old high school student from Washington State. He's always been into programming, and when he heard about the coronavirus, he thought that this would be a good project to scrape all this information and put it into one universally accepted place. He launched this website 3 months ago today. A lot has happened since December 29th and now. And for the last few days, I've been running his coronavirus dashboard in a browser in the background as I respond to emails, plan for online small groups, write today's service, sit in Zoom meetings, and all the other things that suddenly have me spending lots of time in front of my computer. And the numbers on this coronavirus dashboard are sobering and scary. I literally watched the United States increase its number of confirmed cases and move ahead of Italy. Just in the time it took me to write this sermon yesterday, more than 350 people died from the disease in just the United States, including 3 in Delaware. When I told my husband Eric about my constant monitoring of the numbers of diagnoses and deaths, he was like, "Why? Why would you do that to yourself?" And I think it's because it makes this pandemic seem real to me. You know, lots of people are stuck at home with a whole lot more time on their hands, but that doesn't feel like a worldwide pandemic. That feels more like a culture shift. We have gone from a culture obsessed with our busyness to a culture that is taking on new hobbies and creative baking and returning to board games and phone calls and long walks. There's a meme going around that says, after years of wanting to thoroughly clean my house but lacking the time, this week I discovered that the lack of time wasn't really the reason. And so I've been asking around to all of you, what are you doing during this time of worldwide pandemic? And those of you who are live streaming, you can offer your answers in the chat box if you'd like. Cinda says she's been doing more crafts. Janet and Richard have been taking long walks together. Dale and Bob are in a gin rummy tournament together. Lois is slowing down more, not so much rushing around, enjoying her regular activities at home, sleeping better. Nancy also reports more sleep, trying new vegan recipes, cleaning up the garden for spring. Dale is calling distant family and friends on the phone. Linda is crocheting an Afghan for her niece's girlfriend. John is spending time with family, doing woodworking and working on the AV team at church. Adris is completing online training to be a disaster mental health responder for the Red Cross, in addition to learning how to play Dungeons and Dragons as Will, home from college, teaches Adris and Elise. Jan is helping her mom with jigsaw puzzles. Donna is doing spring cleaning, playing the recorder and Native American flute, playing Scrabble in Spanish and in English. Richard's spending time on stamp collecting and model railroading. Paul is cleaning his office and seeing what turns up that might have been missing for years. But not all of you are experiencing an abundance of time. Some of you work in healthcare, or at the grocery store, or the pharmacy, or in transportation, or other essential jobs, and you're busier than you've ever been. Some of you are suddenly working from home while also having a child or children who is suddenly at home, not at school, and you're juggling getting work done while also tending to your family's needs. Some of you have yourselves been struggling getting to doctor's visits, facing new diagnoses, if not COVID-19. Some of you are out of work, trying to figure out what less income means for you. Some of you have had to cancel trips to see family and are wondering whether, with travel restrictions and illnesses and aging, whether you'll ever see some of your family members again. Some of you are not able to attend memorial services for loved ones. Some of you are struggling to engage all the emotional and spiritual resources you have just to get through each day. Despite the walls between us, I see you. Despite resorting to phone and online communications, I hear you. Your church sees you and hears you. You are loved and you are held, even when it doesn't feel that way. I've been trying to get on my walks every day. Back when Lent started, I shared that this year I decided to walk every day, picking up trash in my neighborhood and looking for beauty. I'm going to be honest, I hate this practice. There are days when I cannot believe the kind of trash that is out there. Trash that points to addiction and suffering. There are days when I pick up so many plastic straws, I just want to scream. And although I wear gloves, don't think that at some point I didn't start worrying about the coronavirus and whether it still made sense to pick up other people's trash in the midst of pandemic. I'm glad, though, that I picked this practice. And I'm glad that I didn't know that there was a pandemic coming, because if I had known, I would have tried so hard to pick a practice that would somehow save the world from this virus. I don't even know what that looks like, but I would have spent way too much time trying to find out the perfect spiritual practice for a COVID-19 Lent. But instead, I picked up this practice. I pick up trash and I look for beauty. I pick up trash and I look for beauty. And on my worst days with this pandemic, those days when I want to cry at the numbers or scream at our national leaders, on those days when I cannot do a thing to save the world, I pick up trash. I walk along the street, I pick up a can and I throw it in my bag. I pick up another straw and I put it in my bag. I pick up a potato chip bag, put it in my bag. One thing after another that still has no direct impact on this pandemic. But it is. It is the next right thing for me to do. And so I keep going. And I pick up the candy wrapper and the dirty comb and the broken tennis ball and the empty liquor bottles and the cigarette boxes and the empty plastic bags. And somehow I must have known how despairing picking up trash day after day can be, because I also committed to look for beauty. The unfolding of a tulip magnolia blossom, they look like flowers from heaven. Countless bright yellow daffodils that look like laughter. Nesting birds giddy about the promise of family. Bright blue sky. Did you know that if you look straight into the flower of a cherry blossom tree, that you can see a star deep in the middle of it? Sometimes we find wisdom or hope in a flower, or in birds, or in babies, or puppies, or in a poem, or virtual online trips to museums around the world, or a streaming couch concert. And sometimes, when we go out looking for hope, we just can't find it. And on those days, our work is especially hard. According to Albert Camus, hope is not found in a nation or in people or individuals. Rather, it is awakened, revived, nourished by millions of solitary individuals. Millions of solitary individuals. This word pandemic comes from the Greek word pandemos. Pan meaning all, demos meaning people, all people. Pandemos, all the people. Pandemic is a thing that is felt by all the people. Disease is implied in our use of the word pandemic, but COVID-19 isn't the only thing that has the capacity to impact all people. Our human capacity to revive hope is astonishing. No one of us is meant to save the world. Instead, this is our moment, right here and right now, to do the next thing we can do to awaken, revive, nourish hope. And that doesn't mean that we set out to make people feel better or provide a false sense of assurance that everything's going to be great, or that they're not going to get the virus, or that the finances will balance, or that their beloved will not die. That's not how our faith works. Instead, we believe in a hope that says that we are not going to let despair get all of our energy. We are not going to let despair be the only experience of those around us. And that's why we advocate for everyone, recognizing that the most vulnerable among us are the hardest hit by this pandemic. Those whose health is compromised, those with lower financial resources, those who are uninsured or underinsured, those who are undocumented, those who are experiencing homelessness or food insecurity. That is why our congregation's team of volunteers for Emmanuel Dining Room found a way to still provide food for those in need, despite the chaos and uncertainty of this time, because they felt their faith was urging them to awaken hope. And that's why so many of you are reaching out to one another and staying connected to those who are especially isolated right now, offering to bring supplies and groceries to those with compromised immune systems, because you know your faith is urging you to revive hope It's why so many of you are donating whatever dollars you can to support nonprofit organizations, businesses, individuals, and staying home and practicing diligent hand washing and desanitizing because you choose to nourish hope that another day will come. When we cannot naturally get to wisdom and hope on our own, we are simply meant to do whatever little thing we can do to manufacture it. Go for a walk, play a board game, sing, smile. This is our moment, right here, right now, to do the things that cultivate life and connection and love and healing and strength and leadership, compassion, joy, wonder. Even while the realities of a worldwide pandemic are constantly running in the background. We are a people of faith. We are those Buddhist prayer wheels ever spinning out prayers of compassion and love and peace and joy over and over again, steady and committed and unceasing. Some weeks ago, I asked you a question. I asked you this question before I knew we were heading into a pandemic. I asked you this question before how I would know, how deeply I would need your answers to this question. I asked you a question posed by my colleague in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, Reverend Jake Morrill. If you could whisper 3 words into the ear of a newborn child, knowing that those 3 words would guide that child's life for the next 100 years, what 3 words would you whisper? Only 3 words, no explanation. And good, defiant Unitarian Universalists that you are, some of you sent me these long explanations with your 3 words. And when I asked for only 3 words, some of you sent me 5 words or 4 words. Another refused to participate because there were not 3 words perfect enough to utter to a child whose personality was not yet formed, whose path we could not yet know, whose needs were nothing we could predict. But yet some of you took the risk to simply offer 3 words, imperfect as they might be, to make the path a little bit smoother, a little bit brighter, more colorful, more sure. And despite all of the wise things that I have tried to gather over the years, stuffed into my gourd, the wisdom I give back to you on this day is the perfect reassurance that all of you offered me. May this wisdom guide you, and may these intentions flow forth steady and streaming into a world in need of such wisdom. You are loved. Share your wonderfulness. You are enough. Love, learn, respect. You've got this. Love everyone always. Kindness, integrity, strength. Cherish your world. Hopeful, gentle, kind. We are one. Patience, knowledge, love. Empathy, self, others. You are perfect. Love, laugh, respect. Love, kindness, hope. You will survive. Always be kind. Love, learn, act. Find love beneath. Never give up. You are you. First, love yourself. Welcome, little one. Be at peace. You are powerful with compassion and love. Just be you. Love your neighbor. God is love. Boundaries and connection. You be fierce. Eat dessert first. Be your best. Bless the world. You are amazing. Brace yourself, kiddo. You are sufficient. Love is enough. Always choose love. Courage, compassion, connection. Slow, deep breaths. Everything is love. This is it. You belong, love. Follow your gut. Live long and prosper. You are wanted. Believe in yourself. Freedom is priceless. It's all holy. Beauty, truth, love. You are important. Give, learn, grow. Read, evaluate, think. Don't ever say, I can't. Always follow your heart. We love you. Always question everything. Be the change. Explore, adapt, love. Each week we give and receive an offering to make sure that our utilities get paid, even though there's hardly anyone here in our building, to make sure our staff wages continue, even though almost all of our work is behind the scenes now, and most importantly, to continue boldly living out our faith as a congregation and also in the larger community. We invite donations, small and large, to continue this work, and I hope you will join me in giving generously to First Unitarian Church of Wilmington. Please join me now in dedicating our lives and our offerings to the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action. We dedicate our lives and these our offerings. Albert Camus wrote that hope is not found in a nation or people or individuals. Rather, it is awakened, revived, nourished by millions of solitary individuals. You are one of the millions who are called to awaken, revive, and nourish hope. You do that by loving and living fiercely and generously. It might be our most important work together. As I extinguish the chalice flame, may your spark of hope find its strength, and may it light our world.
Well, I can't always take the shots you give. Every pitch can't be a hit, yet somehow we have to live. So I'll just keep on swinging till a great one comes my way. And I'll wake up every morning singing till I know this one is my day. In my perfect world, you'll be there too. That day will come. That's my perfect wish for me and you. Yeah, that's my perfect wish for me and you. If it wasn't for the burning sun, it wouldn't be much fun to swim. And when you freeze your bones in the winter wind, feels so good to come back in. Sometimes we break from all that's good, sometimes we scream and shout. But now I know a day with you is so much better than one without. That That's my prayer.